Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a very special episode today. This is the first ever GV Weekly Geek episode. I feel like I don't even fully understand like what we're going with this, but I love it. I love the name of it. I love that I'm joined by my friend Dylan here. But before I'll introduce, I already introduced him, but before you get his fancy nickname, I'll give you my fancy nickname. I am the freshman Kirklin Patzer, and who am I with?
Who am I? I am the man in the windowless room. Dylan, I'm guessing you don't know what that's a reference to because it's.
I don't. It's probably a Daredevil thing.
We'll get into it. I'm going to
Okay.
save it until it comes up, but it is relevant for what we're talking about today.
It's not a it's a special occasion when you don't just have the Adam Hart caster. I feel it's a beautiful name and I love it. You know, I don't ever change, but it's like a special occasion when you deviate from that. So
I feel like I usually do, but there's certain things like, for example, Prince of Persia. I was like, I got nothing. I don't know what to do here. I'm just gonna rock it.
yeah, that's fair. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very fun Marvel-packed episode to unravel here today. But before we get into all that meat and potatoes, things to unravel, articles to break down, just a quick plugs to get out of the way. If you're paying attention to we have so many feeds these days, but on our main feed, we drop everything on there. But we also have our news feeds, which this will be on there. We have our review feeds, and on the review feeds, we're popping out our Andor episodes.
Nice.
Me, Travis, and Taylor just recorded the penultimate, I know you love that word, Dylan, episode of Andor. You know, I'm loving that show. I'm so excited for the season finale. It's such a fun time breaking down that. Last night was a really goofy one. I don't know if there's something in the water for all of us. We were getting so many giggles and laughs. I don't know if you could tell, Dylan, because we recorded our Prince of Persia episode.
You guys
coming
were
into it,
we got in the room.
We had an
Prince of
energy
Persia.
for sure, but that was lots of fun. I've had a week, so I feel like I can't even remember if we have other shows that we're reviewing right now. I know Taylor's doing his Chucky's, which I think would be dropping today, maybe tomorrow on the feeds. If it's still going, I have no idea. I'm not watching that show. So yeah, just keep your eye on those feeds for anything that we're reviewing. We have lots of side quest stuff going on, lots of video game things popping off right now. Dylan Musk, you want to give a little hint of what's on there?
This week was a lot of fun. Of course, the review for God of War Ragnarok, which was a good time, and I think we're going to be doing a part 2 for that, a spoiler cast, kind of how me and you did Plague Tale.
Yeah.
I gotta come back and talk about these spoilers. There's so many good stuff in there. And then you and Taylor are releasing a Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 review on the weekend. And then on Monday, both of you two will join me on SideQuest, where we'll talk more about We'll talk more about Warzone specifically.
The Warzone side of it,
and then some other news and other, SideQuest goodness. So a lot of stuff. But man, right around the corner, as you mentioned, December's coming up. Like, we got Game of the Year right around the corner. So it's a very, very exciting time in the realm of SideQuest.
It's very exciting. It's like it's packed with content, which is great. You know, it's great to be busy, but sometimes I don't want to say it's like overwhelming, but it's just like, oh my gosh, there's no gaps in the content.
I'm a little overwhelmed.
Just,
I'll admit.
I didn't want to say it, but I'm extremely overwhelmed. School and everything. It's popping off right now. But I'm excited to be here with you, just talk about some stuff. But what else? Oh yeah, Travis is still doing his Travis Told Yous. So keep your eye on those. That stuff. Is it no?
There's no so on the end.
Travis
he
told
said
you.
He said it one time too, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. There's no so.
I feel like he's told me that multiple times. I just still keep trying to throw in this.
TTU. Think of the acronym.
Travis told you. Yeah, there you go. That's a good way to remember it. So yeah, Travis told you all that great stuff. Again, keep your eye on those feeds. If you want to support us further, you can check out our Patreon, where you get everything ad-free, early, exclusive. As I was mentioning, we dropped our Prince of Persia episode, so that's on the Patreon feed. We had so much fun. We had so much fun talking about the movie. I don't know if everyone had a blast like watching the movie, but it was a fun time breaking that down. And yeah, we're always putting fun stuff on there. We have our After 9 episode coming. That was something I forgot to plug, so good reminder on myself there of we're doing our morning edition, so that's going to be dropping. We're going to be going live at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you are a tier 2 Patreon or above, you can join and just talk. I don't even know if we have a specific category this week. I know Travis has some questions for me. Every time we're like leading up to a Patreon after 9, I feel like he has something to ask me. And I don't know what it is. It's like I'm going in and it's like an intervention thing. I just go in and they're like, Kirklin, we need to talk about this. It's like, oh gosh, what did I do this time? But nonetheless, it's going to be lots of fun. That's like, it usually runs like 2 hours. And again, just interact with our Patrons. They're all wonderful people. Speaking of, they're wonderful people, but maybe the best of the best, the cream of the crop, is our Patreon producers, which is big shout out to Aaron Braden, April of Darkness, Smalley Biggs, Joshua Wright. We love you guys for all the support that you give the show. And again, they are at the highest tier. They are the one keeping fucking love our Patreon producers, as Taylor Field. We need to put that in quotes.
Realize you could do 2 banners at once. I'm learning. I've never done these banners before, so I'm learning.
I don't know if you can do 3. I feel like 3 might be too much, but 2 is an appropriate amount. But yeah, so huge shout out to them. Manscaped, that's another place to support the podcast. You can go on there, go check out all their products. If you use the promo code GVPOD, GVPOD. Let's spell it out for you, people. But you'll get yourself
in a Wordle. You're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, maybe that's this week's Wordle. You can get yourself 20% off as well as free worldwide shipping, and using our code that is directly supporting the podcast. So yeah, big shouts out to anyone that's using that code. But without further ado, I might have forgot something here and there, but I'm ready to talk about some Marvel news. And our first main topic, Maddie Sags. Oh, we love you, Maddie. Maddie's just such a wholesome guy. Always makes you smile.
Today too.
Absolutely, yes. We'll get there, in due time. But yeah, our first big main topic today is regarding Marvel's animation studio, and this isn't the most positive news that we're gonna be breaking down. It's pretty sad, actually, I'll say. So if you're not aware, there was, I don't know if it was an article or if someone said it here and there, but from what I got on my end, it doesn't sound like it's set in stone for the future of Marvel animation. I have a quote here. I don't know if that's a quote from Travis or not, but I'll read it off anyway. It says, freshman year. So this is the Spider-Man freshman year show. If you didn't know, it was going to be an anthology series where it's not really directly tied to the events of the MCU, or if it was going to be doing some just canonical things, if that's even a thing in the MCU. Now that we're in the realm of multiverses, I don't know if anything's really canon or non-canon anymore, but nonetheless, it's not going to be, in line with the stories that we know of. Exactly, yes. That's a good way to say it. So yeah, back to the quote. It says, freshman year is still set to premiere at some point in 2024, with some sources stating that it could air in the fall of 2024. This sounds like a Travis quote. I don't know if anyone said that. That's a weird thing to say. This idea that the show might be canceled has been floated around, but that's currently what it is. Just an idea, not something that has been acted upon as of yet, and may not be acted upon at all. First initial thoughts. Dylan, what do you think when you saw that?
Yeah, well, I guess the other part of this is that there's other animation things that come with it, but just sticking on the freshman year part of it in particular, to me, I was just confused, I guess, first of all, because Disney and Marvel in particular, they have so much money, so this seemed like a strange thing for me. I know recently Netflix has been canceling a bunch of specifically animated things, so I don't know if animation has just gotten really expensive for whatever reason, if it's just things changing because of COVID, if that's affected the cost of making an animated show, maybe that's a thing. But Netflix is in a much different place than Marvel and Disney. They are just making all sorts of money. They got the huge box.
They're in the green,
along with the subscription services, along with the parks and all these things. Yeah. So it seems like a weird thing for them to preemptively want to cancel things before we've even seen them, and the timing of it is also bizarre because to this point, for I guess the Disney Plus, we'll say MCU era of Marvel, we've only seen one animated thing so far. That's What If, and that was 2021, correct? Or was that even 2020? When did that actually come out?
I'm gonna have to Google that. I don't know.
If it was 2021, it was kind of earlier. But my point being there is that that was a while ago. So this doesn't seem like a decision that was made what If's viewing stats are really low, and so we're gonna not go ahead with more animation things. So the timing of it is particularly
2021.
2021, yeah. So the timing of it is particularly strange, and it's sad because we haven't seen what's going on with the Spider-Man. We did our hype levels for everything, and this was kind of lower tier for me, but everything in MCU Marvel's exciting for me right now. So I still am quite excited for this. So it is a huge bummer because we've even we got a bunch of screenshots and things like that at I guess Comic-Con, maybe D23 as well, seeing some information about this show. And it's wow, and there's so many characters in there. I can't wait to see what they do with this thing. So if it sounds I don't know, the excitement already gets ruined for the show if you already know that it's dead in the water and you're only going to get this one season.
Yeah. Oh, like this was. I mean, you know me. I'm a Spider Boy. I was so pumped for this series and just the maybe like the freedom that they could run with it of it not being like contained to a 616. Like I love what the MCU does, but like it is really they have like a set idea of where everything's going, and you know they have some offshoots, whether it's like a Disney Plus show or whatnot, that maybe can be its own contained story, but for the bigger picture it's all kind of leading somewhere. But just knowing that the freedom, it's like, no, this isn't even in that universe, so they can go crazy. Like they could, I don't even know, have Uncle Ben as a villain or something. You know, random example, but they could really do all of that stuff. So it's for me, it's like that's really fun because maybe I'll get content of or like Spidey stories that I've never even imagined like could be. I don't know. Like I said, the Uncle Ben is a villain. Like I would never have heard of that before in history, but also just like not. Yeah, it you can bring in other side villains or maybe other characters that were brought in, like a Scorpion, for example. He was in Spider-Man. What was even the first one? Homecoming. But I don't know. I really didn't love the way that character was tackled. And now it's like, well, he was in it, so you know, you got your Scorpion character. It's like, no, I didn't. Come on, just because that character has that name, does that mean I'm never gonna get that character again? But if we're in a completely different universe, maybe we can, and maybe it's the version that I love. You know, when he's in the big green Scorpion outfit. So I was really much looking forward to this. I love animated stuff as well. So it's just like it ticked all the boxes for like getting my hype levels on it, and just the uncertainty around it. Like I know the first part that I read there, it's like we're still planning for 2024, but like yeah, I don't know. The uncertainty makes me a little bit less excited, and if it is just going to be like it's going to be stopping after that one season because I don't know, people are just getting laid off and whatever other things are happening on behind the curtains, it's a little bit upsetting, I'd say, and by a little bit I mean quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, another element to this as well, like just for the animated shows in general, like maybe not getting the time of day, is we were talking about this on a newscast actually a couple days ago, where in this like new era of Marvel where Disney bought Fox and has all those things, like really the only Marvel content that we're getting at this point is like directly tied to the MCU, and these animated shows were a good opportunity for things outside of that 616 universe to exist. You would think that they could probably go ahead with less like overhead. You know, Kevin Feige doesn't need to make sure everything is perfect because it's not in the same universe, so it can kind of get away that way. And then like I don't know if there's anything that was particularly interesting, like you said, like a different version of Scorpion that was really well done in the animated show. Multiverse stuff is weird. They could bring that guy over into the MCU live action version. Yep. Maybe they wouldn't use the same voice, but they could say it's the same character or something like that. So it seems like a missed opportunity because right now it's just like you have MCU and then you have like the Sonyverse, and that's like where you're going to get new Marvel stuff from, unless you're pulling from those older things from, you know, decades prior.
It isn't. No, it's like I love the MCU, and you know I like some things that have come out of the Sonyverse and stuff like that, but just I don't know, the freedom to just get creative. It's unfortunate if we're just limiting it because of I don't know. It's just maybe they're not seeing it as the most financially rewarding on their end. Like they're not getting the maximum output for their input on it. And I get it. At the end of the day, it is a business, and they do have to have these margins to just be as successful and like make shareholders happy because they're the ones that are funding these amazing projects that we're getting, right? So I totally get it, but it's just sad news. I think reading that. And the other part that I didn't read was going forward, Marvel Studios will seek to gauge the interest from audiences worldwide on animated shows before greenlighting more, but some layoffs are happening and some series are in trouble, which again, that's just another upsetting thing to read. Of if this is only like the first one that we're hearing about, like what else that they've piqued or like tickled our fancy, maybe is a good way to say it, on just, oh yeah, this will be coming down the line, but I don't know, is that just an empty promise? And going forward is like it's similar thing with like game delays. Like we're just in an era of like getting so used to like, oh, this remake's happening in like 2 years, then in like a year goes by and it's like, no, we're scrapping that project, and you just get excited for it. And it's like, do I take any of that? Like I gotta take everything with a grain of salt now on like if it's actually gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, because I felt like we felt different in this era where obviously MCU is huge and they have like multiple $1 billion movies. Like they're just swimming in money. And like to this point, I don't think anything that Kevin Feige has revealed on a stage has been canceled, right? Like maybe things have changed, like the title is different, or maybe it's like it was a movie and now it's a TV show. Things have changed since those announcements, but like I don't think anything has ever been canceled before, right? In this era, I guess we almost felt like we were safe from that. Like when we got all these announcements, like of course these things are going to happen. So it's sad that like almost everything now, even in the live action stuff, is like, okay, I guess we shouldn't just consider this, set in stone. Like things can change, obviously. We just haven't gotten to that point yet. But yeah, I guess the shows that we know about right now, so Spider-Man freshman year, which we're in part of this article, is that it's 2024 is when they're eyeballing a lot. I don't think that was ever actually announced. This is maybe the first time we're actually getting a year for that.
Yeah.
But we know that X-Men 97 is announced for next year, and then Marvel Zombies and What If Season 2 are kind of in the void there. So X-Men 97 you think is probably the closest, if they're probably the furthest along on that one. So I'd say that one probably feels the most safe.
Yeah.
How do you feel about X-Men? Do you think that's going through at this point?
I definitely, I think that is the safest one. Going forward, though, like, what's that going to mean if they want to continue on with the series? If they're, I don't know, I don't want to say halting production,
of that show
but
would just feel weird, Like,
it really would.
Right.
Especially
when
like
we did our 10-year cast, we had set in like 3 or 4 seasons worth over the years.
And like going through the hoops of like this is a show that was in the 90s, and they're going through the effort of like bringing it back, and it's continuing from that point. Like that's such a big thing. Imagine if they just do one season. Like we're it's not financially whatever the word is
viable, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So like that would be gut wrenching. I'm not even like a super big X-Men 97 fan. I'm excited one day when we do our retro for it and get to see it all.
If the show gets canceled, are we doing the retro? Like,
I don't know. We'll have to do what Marvel does.
If you want to see the retro, you got to make sure that show's still.
I was gonna say we'll do what Marvel does, and we'll gauge the audience, get their feedback if they want us to do
I'm
the
with
retro.
you. I really want to do that as well. Do you? If you could only keep one of these 4 shows, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good question. So, sorry, what are all my players?
X-Men,
I got freshman year,
Spider-Man,
X-Men,
Zombies, I guess another season of What If.
Oh man, that's tough. Because I don't have any like big nostalgia ties. I think I'm gonna axe 97 initially. Sorry, everyone out there who's big X-Men fans. I feel like maybe What If. which is the sad one. Again, I love the first season, but again, from what I'm looking at here, I think like Marvel Zombies, from what that episode was in What If, it was just something so unique, so dark and gritty, and again, just something so fresh from Marvel. So I really want to see that series, and then gotta have freshman year. Come on, I gotta see more Spidey content. So that would be my roster there. What about you?
I think I would pick Zombies for the oddball pick. I know that technically we have seen it to an extent, but I just want to see what a season's worth of that of that show is. I just think that's a bit of a what if in itself, where you're getting other versions of these characters. Like you can have your favorite MCU characters pop in there and see those different versions, so you can get that what if effect in there, even if it is only one hypothetical situation, I suppose. Yeah. So I think I'd pick that one, but yeah, it is tricky to cut any of these because, they're all so interesting and all very different too. Absolutely.
All right. Maddie Sags jumping into the chat. Animated version of Jared Leto's Morbius one day. Ooh. I don't think that's happening. They tried to bring that movie back live action and nobody watched it again. But Morbius was actually awesome in the old Spider-Man series. And
that is true.
I agree. I think he's a lot better than what he was portrayed in that version.
He's one of the best characters in that show. I think he goes through like quite the arc over the course
really
of the
cool arc.
too.
Yeah. It was like a multi-episode like finale, wasn't it? Like his appearance in the 90s animated show?
I think as Michael Morbius, whatever. Like I think he's in it a decent amount before he actually transforms. I could be wrong on that, but I seem to remember something like that. But he was at least like we got to see his human version a good amount, and then obviously the Morbius version as well, which I think at least came back for a couple different arcs over the show. Yeah. I don't know if I want a Jared Leto Morbius TV show, though. Actually, absolutely not. I don't want that. Don't do it.
Clean answer, no. Don't do it. All right, and then there's another rumor, I guess, revolving around Mr. Daredevil. Apparently, it was revealed that Daredevil will get a classic hallway fight scene, but in an alley this time. Again, I'm just reading from Travis's notes here, so it's kind of like just thrown in there. So that would have been in freshman year, and then another rumor was going around that Vincent D'Onofrio. I am plagued by Taylor. I gotta like sidebar here because he is very notorious for, I don't know if he does it on purpose or not, but he just switches people's names into. If you're watching our Andor reviews, I know you're not, Dylan, but there's a character.
Sorry, I'm not watching the show, so I'm not.
Genevieve, and he calls her is like Genevieve or something like that. I don't even remember what it is. Genevieve. That's exactly what it is.
Oh, that's the Frenchman in him, I guess. That's his like 10% Frenchman.
Well, I don't think Frenchmen say Vincent D'Onofrio because that's how he says Vincent D'Onofrio. And now every time I read that, it's like in my head. So shouts out to you, Taylor. Never change, but man, frustrating sometimes. But anyways, Vincent D'Onofrio, rumored to be voicing Fisk, which I think I think that's amazing. Notoriously, I haven't finished Daredevil, but from what I've experienced of his portrayal of the character of Daredevil, it's like pitch perfect casting in my eyes, at least from like the comic book version of what I've read. I think he's got that voice too, that it's like a familiar voice if you're aware of it. I'd say that's a weird thing to say. If you know of his voice, it's familiar. Duh. But it's just he's got like fear, like he exudes fear, I think, in his voice, and it just adds to his brilliant performance of the character of Fisk. So I think that's amazing if they're able to get that pairing. Again, we've kind of just talked about how maybe we're only getting one season, if anything at all. But what do you think about this news? You're a big Daredevil fan, I know.
I am, for sure. Yeah, I guess, I mean, I'd be totally down to see another Daredevil hallway scene. I like that that's kind of the Stan Lee cameo of Daredevil, is that everything he's in, he has to do a hallway fight scene. I guess for No Way Home, he didn't do one there. He just sat in a chair for a few minutes. It's
like an extended edition or something they're going to release. It's him like kicking the shit out of a bunch of people.
Yeah, or like there's just for some reason there's like a court, like something going on where, I don't know, for some reason the courtroom's just like in a hallway or something like that. Like it was under construction, the courtroom, so they had to do it out in the main room, whatever it is. As for Mr. D'Onofrio there doing some voice acting. Yeah, I wonder how much voice acting he has done in his career, because I can personally speak to the fact that he did a voice acting role in Dishonored 2. So I know that he has done like roles outside of strictly on-screen acting, whatever you want to call it. So I'm sure he'd be open to it. I know he's done it before. I guess this doesn't really excite me a whole lot. I love the character in the Daredevil show. I think he's okay in Hawkeye. There's still a work in progress there. But yeah, I think there's something for me about, like, if he's the only guy from that universe, or from, I guess now he's MCU. So if he's the only guy from MCU who's like voicing a character in there, and then we have other characters that we know about that are voiced by different people, because like we know Tom Holland's not doing the voice right for that. So yeah, I think that's the case. That sounds familiar to me. That
I think you're right. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I guess that doesn't really do much for me. Like, cool, but I don't think that gets me any more particularly excited. Now, I guess the other question with that is, like, when you're bringing in Vincent D'Onofrio and people of that caliber, I could see that being a thing that would inflate your budget a lot for an animated show if you're getting like a bigger actor to do these parts. So I wonder if that has anything to do with that, is like that's what's ballooning their budgets, and why they are having to do stuff is because they're trying to bring up the scale too much. So I guess if that would make any difference, like, I will take a different Kingpin if it reduces the budget by a good amount. Not to say that you should underpay voice actors, just saying that Vincent D'Onofrio probably has a higher price tag than like many other voice actors who could do a good job as Fisk.
Yeah, it's a good point. And also, like, maybe you're taking away from the potential of, an unheard of voice actor that could just do an amazing job, way better than what D'Onofrio could do, because they're extremely talented people. Sorry?
Of like people watching these things, and like, Kevin Feige, us, we know that freshman year is not 616, but if people are watching things on Disney Plus and they see D'Onofrio here and they hear his voice, they're like, oh, I guess that's the same. That's a good
universe. Point, actually. Like, yeah,
is that something they care about at all?
I don't know if they care about that. I feel like there definitely is going to be that population of, like, no matter what happens, they are probably going to think that it is connected. I guess maybe it also depends how weird they really get, like in the world, like in Multiverse of Madness, like where Doctor Strange goes, red means go and green means stop. Like if they really incorporate like just the physics of the world
was a thing in
different.
freshman year as well, just for whatever reason that detail they decided to bring along.
It's a
you make a
reoccurring
good
thing.
point. I think whether or not Vincent D'Onofrio is in there, people will be confused about that. So I guess you're right. I don't think that actually makes a difference at all.
Yeah, but there's also going to be people that will not even recognize if it is the same guy, right? Like Vincent D'Onofrio. So, yeah. Anything else on the stuff?
No, I don't think so. I hope this stays in that C+ rumor category and never gets promoted to discussing film, posting this on their Twitter. Like that would be very sad. Even if we still get these 4 seasons that we've been informed about, and then they don't do anything else after that. Like, I can live with that. At least I really want to see these things that we've gotten the logos for. We got some casting information on. So hopefully this one doesn't evolve into a fully blown confirmation.
No, very true. Because like across the board, it's just sad news. I got that notification in class. I'm like just having a rough week, and I saw that. I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like I want the content, but also just like people losing their jobs. Like that's just stressful too. Like it's not good news across the board. So stay tuned. We'll be giving updates if the news evolves or devolves. Hopefully devolves. But with that being said, we're gonna jump to our first ad break here, and then we'll be back to unravel some more hopefully fun stuff. And we are back. So next on the docket, keeping in the Spidey realm here, gonna be talking. Oh my gosh, I closed my note. There we go. So this is actually wrapped around Amazon. Dylan, before I get into it, have you watched like anything really on like Amazon Prime? Do you have Amazon Prime?
Nothing other than Rings of Power, and I borrowed my sister's account to watch that.
Classic.
So I could sign in again if I want to. I'm sure she'd be okay with that, but I don't. I'm not, cruising around checking things out on the usual.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Invincible. I'm very, very slowly making my way through Boys, and then obviously Rings of Power. But I've just heard like
superhero kind of related stuff there. I guess is what you're watching.
100%, and like people that have actually seen all of Boys will probably praise it's like it's just the craziest like they are going wild with what they can do superhero wise. I keep trying to say Spider-Man, but superhero wise, and like from what I've seen of Invincible, like what Amazon is doing with superhero content, like they are like it's so unique and different and just such a good like breath of fresh air, I'd say, because it's I love MCU. I understand people making like the comments that it's kind of formulaic, like they do have somewhat of a pattern. Now there is shows in there like She-Hulk that really I think changes things, but I don't know, like the overall start and finish of this, like it's gonna be a character that's moving in with like the rest of the Avengers and like that set formula that MCU does, and Amazon does stuff completely different in that regard. So huge credit to them, and some other shows on there again like that I haven't seen. I've heard high praises from a lot of people. So shouts out to Amazon for just for making good content out there. But this one is wrapped around a possible Marvel / Sony deal or something with Amazon here. Apparently Marvel and Sony show. Oh my gosh, I read that all backwards. Apparently Amazon has ordered shows from Marvel and Sony. Basically, what I'm getting at is a show wrapped around the character of Silk. Now, this is a Spider-Man character. Are you familiar with her at all?
I am not. I consider myself pretty studied on Spider-Man stuff, but Silk, Cindy Moon is her non-hero name.
Great
not
name,
a character
too.
I'm familiar
Great
with
name.
at all.
I love Cindy Moon. That is just like such like a main character's type name. But I've heard Silk before, just going through like the Spider-Man wikis or something down in the past. But I really don't know much about this character. But yeah, apparently there's gonna be live action show starring that character, and then it's from the. What is it? The producer? Oh, the showrunner, Angela Kang, who did The Walking Dead. Very critically successful show, I'd say. I totally tapered off on like season 2, I think, but you know, it made a lot of money, so
I mean,
definitely
she's
successful.
got Kang in her name, so you know that she's ripe to do some Marvel
She's
stuff.
like the new big bad coming to just the showrunner job title. Yeah, no. So she's pairing up with the producers of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. That's on paper, you know, that's a powerhouse.
That's
like
a dream team right there.
Yeah, it's a powerhouse dream team. So that's exciting at surface level. And again, just reading through the article, I'm going off the Variety article that they posted, and just like, I don't know, the fact that she's like a Korean American woman that was bitten by the same spider as Peter Parker, it just like makes sense to have a show like this. You know, if you have someone of like a minority descent or whatever, it's just like, you know, give some more what's the word? Inclusivity? No, representation.
Diversity.
There you go. Diverse. Yeah, exactly. Just like it makes sense that this would be the type of character that they're doing a just running a whole show with. And I feel like, again, I don't know much about the character. I'm excited to read into it a little bit further once we're getting close to the show. But I just see some really great potential with what this show can be. And if it's not tied to a specific universe or anything, again, it takes back to where you can run with that freedom. And who knows, maybe we're going to be seeing some other crossover characters that have popped into the Spidey universe there. But yeah, quick initial thoughts. I don't know. Are you excited for some Silk action?
Yeah, I am. I was doing some wiki digging, of course. I mean, even just images, like, fucking looks so cool. Like, just the suit.
It's like a ninja, right? With the mask.
Yeah,
I love it.
Mask covering the lower half of her face. Like, just super cool. So I would say I'm pretty excited for this. Like, this is a character not familiar with, as I mentioned, and I definitely want to learn about it. I think the ties to Peter Parker are interesting, because if this is a Sonyverse thing, I'd be curious how much they touch on that. I'm sure the show would be an origin story, at least for, you know, a few episodes. She gets bit and we find out what happens to her. Like, I don't know. I'm curious how those ties to Peter Parker actually work, because obviously this could just be, that could not be mentioned at all. It could just be a spider,
100%.
and maybe the deep cut fans know that Peter Parker also got bit by that same spider. Or if it's alluded to, and then it's like, okay, well, Peter's in this universe. Are we going to see him at some point? Who are you going to cast for that? Is that Tom Holland? What's going on? So obviously the implications there are pretty intriguing. This is also where my nickname comes from, because one of her key aliases is the woman in the windowless room, because I guess a big part of her backstory is that she discovers her powers and, like, essentially webs up her parents. I don't think she killed them. I think she just, like, you know, doesn't have control of them. And then some character is helping her control her powers. There's, of course, some villain who's trying to track her down. And so she, like, hides out in a bunker for years. You know, the windowless room, I guess, just a bunker that has everything she needs, where she can learn her powers and be protected from this villain who's hunting her down. So that element, I'd be curious if they actually go that route with it, or if it is just a very classic, like, Toby moment where she gets bit. She plays around with her powers for a couple episodes. She knows how to use them. She fights, you know, a villain, like a more basic superhero structure, I guess, because it sounds like they could go some potentially darker places, or just somewhere different than we're used to from Peter Parker, Miles Morales, all that kind of thing. So yeah, I'd say I'm very, very intrigued by this, even if the Sony side of things has been iffy at best right now. I think this is one that is like, okay, this is a really cool idea. And obviously, as you mentioned, the Amazon pairing, both for the budget and then the minds behind it. It's like, okay, there's actually a lot here that is speaking to the, like, potential quality of this thing.
Oh, 100%. And like you mentioned there, like if they go the safer route, or like go the more wild route, I really feel like the Amazon pairing would make it like go, I don't know, necessarily like darker, but definitely like they wouldn't shy away from doing the version that they want to do. And I think that's awesome, you know. Just more contents, the better. And again, more unique it is, the better as well. But got distracted by the chat.
I'll ask you this, and I'm curious, like, if this is, I mean, it's a different studio, I guess, with Amazon helping out with this, but it's still like a Sony's deciding to do this project. So obviously, Marvel, MCU, or I guess the MCU side of things, they don't have the rights to Silk the character. Obviously, all that spider stuff is by default with Sony until there's a deal signed. Do you expect that this has any sort of connection with, I guess, the Sonyverse characters, either in a first season, or like, are they doing this to get the character ready for down the road, you getting a crossover between these things? And then also, like, what do you want? Do you want that, or do you want?
I mean, I could see it as like a testing the waters type thing. Like they don't for sure like say like it is in that Sonyverse or like shut the door on it, like completely deny that that is the case. I think that's the smartest thing to do because again, it just allows you to kind of just, I don't know, be like water, as the Bruce Lee quotes, just mold to any situation that kind of just pops up. Maybe this is going to be a super just successful show that just a lot of people are checking out, word of mouth goes crazy and everybody's wanting more and more, and then oh yeah, we can kind of do our like would they want to tie that to Sonyverse though? If people don't necessarily love that, it does make a lot of money if you look at like the Venom movies for sure. Morbius not so much, but Venom, I feel like that's just an anomaly though. When you have this guy on screen, you're gonna be making the big billies. But yeah, and then for like my wants, I would say I don't want the Sonyverse tie. I love Venom. He's probably my favorite Spider-Man character, and I just don't like what they're doing with like the Eddie Brock character through those movies. Now, it's not to say that I can't like enjoy the movies because I think they do a good job with the CGI, and the Venom stuff is fun. His humor, not so much, but still, like it to like be whatever year that movie came out, and just the little boy in me was like, I can't believe I'm seeing a live action Venom, and it actually looks good. It's not like the Spider-Man 3 Topher Grace version. So it's like I got that, but the result was Let There Be Carnage, and unfortunately I really hate that movie. So yeah, for my want, I would want it to be its own thing, and then yeah, I don't know, just keep it in like the TV series range. Did you catch if there was a specific amount of episodes that they pitched for the first season?
I don't think we're that far along.
Oh, okay, yeah. So just I'm getting ahead of myself in excitement here, but yeah. So for my want, I would say stay away from the Sonyverse stuff. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would hope that the show would at least start being its own thing and be, excluded from that Sonyverse stuff, just so they don't have to try and tie it in some way or feel forced, or like, let us learn and get attached to the character of Silk, of Cindy Moon, rather than, people go flock to that show because they want to see Tom Hardy, being Venom. That's
a good
again.
point.
Like I would want the focus to, specifically stay on this new character. I think the one that actually sounds kind of compelling to me, and obviously this is not released yet, but is Madame Web. I feel like that could be a good pairing potentially. Like everything I've heard about that show, it seems like there are like, what is it, Spider Woman is confirmed. I forget who. Like
Julia Carpenter. Oh, yeah, my favorite Spider Woman.
I feel like just through that, it seems like there's a lot of like different Spider Women character, not just Spider Woman, but like women Spider Verse characters. I'll say that's like a very weird sentence to you know what I'm getting at. Yeah. So I feel like that seems like a good pairing, like something like those characters teaming up together could be really interesting. Actually, like if that is well done, imagine like Spider Woman and I guess Silk teaming up to fight. Doesn't have to be Venom, but like some other like fun Marvel, some other Spider-Man villain. Like that sounds really cool to me, but obviously I've not seen Madame Web yet because it's not out. So we'll have to wait and see if I actually feel that way after I've seen that movie, because who knows, the track record's not amazing. But yeah, at least for now, let it be its own thing. But maybe down the road, who knows? I think they'll always leave that door open. They don't need to explicitly like comment on like, oh, Venom. Did you hear about this guy Venom who destroyed this thing? Like they don't need any weird connections like that. Like just let it do its own thing for a bit.
That would sound weird. Just like,
hopefully it would be written
Venom.
But even like I'm thinking about like, what if there's just like a news article, like a news screen in the background that's talking about like a recent Venom attack. Like they could do something like that establishes it in the universe without it being, Tom Hardy doesn't need to show up. That could just be like some fun connection. But I think even that stuff, no, don't do any of that right now.
They go to the promote. They do the same route that the Morbius promotion went, where they had like just like an image of like Tobey's Spider-Man. Just like it's linked. It's like no, that's actually not the case. It just got people excited. Yeah, that's grimy. I even forgot that we have like a Craven project coming too. So again, like that's
coming like early next year, right? That's soon.
Around the corner. Yeah, once the snow thaws in our realm, that movie will be here. Yeah, that movie will be here. And again, like that's another character he's a hunter, and if we have a character like Silk, like I can see the tie, but I don't know. I want to see the individual projects on their own before I want to get a mesh, because I don't know. I feel like if you force if you force the pairings like too quickly, or like try to get an assembled universe just too quickly, you'll get like the Justice League route, right? Where it's just such a mess, and it just doesn't sync well, and it's very obviously forced, and you never want that. What else was I gonna say on this topic regarding our new favorite Silk? Yeah, I don't know really, but do you have any other like thoughts on like potential, if this is very successful with the Amazon pairing of Sony and Marvel, and we're getting, I don't know, like another Spidey type character, like if Sony's really happy with the pairing, the numbers are there, is there any like certain characters that you just pop in the head? I'm not saying they have to like tie to Silk or anything, like, I mean, we don't really know who the character of Silk is, so it might be hard to pull from that, but just top of your head, anyone that you can really throw out. I have a couple on my list if you want me to go first.
Well, I mean, the obvious ones would just be like the other, what I'll say is like characters that are of equivalence to like Spider-Man, like a Miles Morales or Gwen Stacy, Spider-Woman. Obviously, they have their own stories, backstories, all that stuff. But it's like obviously that writes itself. You know, you got tons of material to go with there.
It's coming.
So I was thinking like maybe something more intriguing to me is not necessarily like Sinister Six, although it could lead to it, but something that's more like villain focused, whether it's a show that is centered around the Osborn family, Norman Osborn, his son, even like I throw a character like Silvermane in there who has decent quality, I'll say, in the animated show, but he's kind of like a mob boss character who of course gets some like powers and things go wrong for him, but just like some people like that who aren't necessarily like the bombastic villains. Obviously Norman Osborn gets there, but I'm talking for this potential show would be something that's more grounded about like the politics of it. I think it could be interesting that leads into stuff, whether that's building up the equivalent of the Sinister Six or whatever it may be. So that's maybe my one pitch, but like, yeah, I don't know. Miles Morales, that would probably be my number one. Like, yeah, let's do that. Gwen Stacy, give me one of those two. I still want to see those characters live action someday. And if it's not going to happen in the MCU because Sony's not going to allow that, then sure, throw it over to Amazon. Let it happen there. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, they're so popular right now too. I feel like that's like the money ticket too. If you can get a live action project like that, I feel like maybe though, since we're getting like Spider verse the next two movies of that, maybe some people was like, well, let's just tell a new tale, because like what I was mentioning with like the character of Silk, and what was her main name again?
Cindy Moon.
God, I love that name. But like she's like a Korean American character. Like it makes sense to do a show like that in today's day and age, I guess. But so like trying to get like a character that fits, I don't even know, like someone that hasn't been touched before. That was a weird thing to say, but like you know, like brought into the media recently, a character that like Silk, like you can actually just pitch to the just general audience of a character that I'm a Spider-Man fan and I've heard of her, but like I'm not really familiar with her, and to just be like, yeah, we're gonna do our project around this character. It's difficult for me to just like pull those out of the hat. I feel like I really want to see a Black Cat project in the future. She's a tricky character to throw into a pairing, whether it's like in the MCU or something, because I'm not going to say like her whole powers are around like, you know, her just exuding her what's the word I'm looking for here? Her power to like her sexuality, I guess. That was a hard one to come to, but yeah, because she's just so much more than that. Like she's a very interesting character for so many different reasons, as opposed to just being like, hey, Spider-Man, and like having the like sexy voice, the way that she was portrayed in like, you know, in earlier versions and stuff like that. But I really want to see her character live action. I feel like I was really hopeful that we were going to be getting maybe like Sydney Sweeney portraying like that character in the Madam Web project. Now it's even better because I was like, in a perfect world, it's gonna be Julia Carpenter, and that's actually the case. So dreams do come true, kids. You know, shoot for the moon there. But like some other ones too that I thought would be really, really fun. Again, like keeping like the Spidey type realm, like actual like with spider powers. Like Travis's boy Ben Reilly, he was in for Halloween. A Peter Parker clone. I think clones, it can be like a tricky thing to tackle correctly, but again, you could explain it in like 2 minutes on like the logistics of how it happens, or maybe you don't even have to. It's just like this character is just Ben Reilly.
You need to.
Yeah, exactly.
Be like a season 2, 3 thing. You save that for down the road if you need more content at some point. You can go down that route. But like we as an audience, like know enough about Spider-Man or even just like superhero stuff in general that I think we're at a point now where it's like we don't need the origin. We don't need to go through that whole thing. We can just pick up with a character.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And like if you're going down the clone route, like there's so many different like clones of Peter Parker or like different spider people. So I think I think we're getting there like sometime soon because Ben Reilly's a popular character.
Sure. Yeah.
There's Kane Parker too, who's another clone. I think Ben Reilly was the first Scarlet Spider, and then Kane Parker might have been the second, if I'm remembering correctly. But again, it's just a really cool version of Spider-Man. I think that would be so sweet to get a show wrapped around that. And again, in classic comic book Spider-Man fashion, a lot of characters kind of like cross over and mix. So if Amazon's just starting to have like their own like cinematic universe type thing with all their different shows, if it's done well, I think that's super, super exciting. So yeah, I really want to see Black Cat. We'll see where she gets placed. Again, that's another character that I feel like it's not a matter of if we'll get her, it's just a matter of when because she is so popular.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture what her show would be about outside of the existence of Spider-Man. Just because I've really not... I guess I don't have enough experience with her where everything I know is like what she's doing in relation to Spider-Man and like that mystery element of the character. Whereas if you're getting the first person perspective of what she's up to or getting her powers and there isn't that tension of Peter Parker or just other Spider-Man, I'm curious what it would be. I think there is definitely room for it for sure. And Amazon does seem like a good place because if they want to go those places with the character and like make it R-rated or something like that that is a place where they could do that. Disney Plus would not be a good home for an R-rated Black Cat project.
And I feel like if they did go that route, they would change it to make it like Disney-fied, which some people might see that negatively. It's not positive or negative. It's going to be different. And
yeah, we're getting Deadpool soon, rated R. We'll see what that actually looks like.
We'll see what happens. Exactly. But I don't know. I feel like it is the type of character that is so interesting that she doesn't have to be tied to Spider-Man. Like she could just be on her own adventure. How do you balance on like making her feel really different from like something like Catwoman per se? That's a conversation for another cast maybe.
Sure.
But yeah, and then other ones I was pulling again. Matt Gargan, that was who I was shouting out earlier. Scorpion character. I don't know if you do like a whole show about him, but he is a very interesting dynamic with J. Jonah Jameson in the comics and stuff, and like he fucking hates him. He's like the reason why he was put in that suit. So I think even like something like that where it's you have a villain type character, but you portray him like just like a victim, almost like Joker. He's not a good guy, but like that movie does a good job of making you like want to root for the character, even though he is a bad guy. I think of it again. I'm like pitching these Oscar-winning type shows, but but like if they're able to I feel like that's just gold there. If you're able to really milk that golden cow.
Milk the golden cow. Hell yeah, I love it. That sounds like a very video gamey thing to do. You find like a hidden golden cow. Get some
secret cow level like Diablo or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Golden cow. Yeah, I could sit here for days pitching different various shows because
it's crazy that there's that many spider characters, right? Like over the years, they've really either they're just running out of ideas for Peter or they want to do something slightly different, so they just like, we'll just make this other universe version. And there's so many of those. It's crazy.
It's crazy too. And like there's so many characters that I feel like I thought were just contained to like Spider-Man, but then of course comic books are just like so mixed. It's like, oh no, Kingpin is actually a villain just for everyone. Like he's not contained to just Spider-Man. So it's awesome, the area that we're living in. But anything else on this subject? I think that's the rest of my notes on the Spidey stuff.
Yeah, I think that's all for Spidey stuff.
Beautiful. So let's go to probably our last ad break. We'll see. But then we'll be back to talk about some other fun stuff. So we'll be right back. And we are back. So Dylan Muss, we got some fun things. I was trying to like incorporate like a Fantastic Four pun, and I butchered it. I couldn't even like exit out of my brain, let alone exit out of my mouth. But
you just said fantastic news or something like that. Is
true.
that too easy?
It should be too easy. I've had just a brain depleting week school wise,
Yeah.
so I wasn't able to formulate that in my head. But yeah, we got
4
some
bullet points. Fantastic news. Here you go.
Why don't I let you just take us away on some of these topics?
No, you're
here,
doing great. You're doing great.
All right, so yeah, Fantastic Four. We got some plot rumors here. Big one being that apparently Fantastic Four will be set in the past, more specifically around the 60s. Continuing on, they will be a team out of time. Kang will be in the movie, which is something that I was kind of surprised about reading. Kang is not the villain either. He's in the film to connect the group to the 2 Avengers movies, which makes sense, trying to like slot it into just the overall MCU structure, I guess. And apparently we'll see their origin, but I've heard it's not strictly an origin story. And I'm speaking as Travis there because I threw in the eye. Dylan, what do you think about this? Initial thoughts?
Yeah, so here's something I'm wondering when it comes to Kang, because when we compare him to Thanos, which I think is a fair comparison, Thanos had 2 post-credit scenes in like 2 Avengers movies specifically, and then he had like another scene in Guardians of the Galaxy pre-Infinity War. Do you feel like Kang is getting a bit too convoluted? If it's like, okay, if you want to know who this character is and be caught up to date before you go see the latest Avengers movie in theaters, you have to watch all of Loki because you got to watch the final episode. You have to watch the 3rd Ant-Man movie, so presumably you got to watch the other 2 Ant-Mans as well. And then you got to watch this other new movie of Fantastic Four, these other new characters. That's assuming there's nothing else, that he pops in as well. Am I overthinking this? Like, I know everything at this point is kind of convoluted in the MCU, where it's like any movie you see, it's like, oh, I guess I got to do my homework and have all these things watched, and people like us are already up to date on those things. But if you're getting in now, or maybe you're just only interested in certain characters, but it's like, oh, then I have to go watch Loki. I don't really care about that. Am I overthinking this? Is this a concern?
I don't know if you're overthinking it, because it is a lot of like build up for this character and like we're seeing different versions of him too. So maybe if I wanted to like play devil's advocate to your point there, it's like, well, that's a different version. It doesn't really matter, and I feel like also a part of me, I'm just so like groomed by the MCU machine of like, well, I gotta watch all this leading up to it. And again, I tell everybody that I talk to in my day to day, it's like, no, you gotta watch this project leading up to it. So for me, it doesn't seem like too jarring to like have to do all this extra homework to just understand who the villain was. I feel like, I don't know, also like that kind of happened with Thanos, but they did do a decent enough job of like, you don't really have to watch all like the end credits of like seeing him on his throne to be like, oh, that's that guy. Like they do a good job at explaining it. And I'm kind of trusting that Marvel will do a good job for like the big, like leading up to what's the first one? Kang Dynasty? Yeah. Yep. So leading up to Kang Dynasty, like it will be very obvious whether it's in the last movie leading up to it or like just the promotion. Like, oh, that's our big bad there. And maybe you don't have to like know that he was living in the quantum realm for all these times or whatnot. And again, I feel like my answer there is very much groomed because I'm trained as a Marvel MCU viewer, but I think you got some substance to your point there.
What like the other side of the coin, I guess, could be that, for us, the people who are the super fans watching everything, we want to feel like that was worthwhile. We want to feel like all these appearances of Kang have been purposeful, because the Thanos stuff is definitely a lot more teaser than this is. Like, that is a long episode in Loki when there is a ton of dialogue going on there. Like, going into Kang Dynasty, you probably want to hear this. And Quantumania, it sounds like that'll be a big role as well. And who knows what his role in Fantastic Four will be, but it sounds like not a it's not like, obviously, if it was a post-credit scene teaser, they would not announce that here. Obviously, they save that stuff for surprises. So it's like two sides of it where, I mean, obviously, me personally, I will have seen all this stuff, so I'll be ready. I'll probably even rewatch that season, that episode of Loki. Maybe not the whole season, that episode. I'll probably rewatch all the Kang scenes before, going into this new one. So I want that movie to feel like it's rewarding me for doing that. But I also don't want like a half an hour of that movie to be spent exposing information to me, exposition information to me that I already know because I've watched all this stuff. So the new viewers who aren't familiar with that stuff can get caught up on the character. So I guess these are just things I'm wondering about, is like, how do you balance that teeter-totter? I don't know if there is a great balance, because this is equivalent to Thanos in terms of the scale that he's getting 2 Avengers movies to fight this one bad guy, but they're doing a lot different route with it, where they're building them up a lot more beforehand. So those are some things I wonder about, and if Kang Dynasty drags, for example, when we're watching it, because like, oh god, I already know all this stuff about, I know who Kang is, why are you wasting all this time explaining all this stuff to me again? Because they're trying to take in, you know, the rest of the audience so they can hit their $1 billion by making it digestible for all audiences. So outside of all of that, this is interesting. I'm excited to see Kang in what is described as a non-villain role, and how he's in there and how he sets up the characters and gets them set up for the events of, or I guess joining the rest of the Avengers. And if it is true that they're like, this movie's in the 60s, then bringing the 60s forward to present day. So all that stuff I'm excited in. And I mean, as the super fan who's watching this stuff, I am very excited to get all these appearances of Kang, because it makes me feel like they're putting in the groundwork to make this an all-time great villain. So hopefully it's like it actually builds up and lands in that movie and doesn't, just feel like we're being redundant with certain things. But I'm excited for the idea.
It's a tricky, I mean, I feel like that's such a hard task for like Marvel and just everyone that are putting on these projects. It's like, okay, how do we prep everyone for this big villain? Like, we have to do the proper, build up. You can't just like, oh, one day Kang's there, and it's like, because you got to feel attached to, or like some weight to the villain, and like, I don't know, maybe hear his pitch and like understand that he is a better villain than what I thought Ben Kingsley's character was in Prince of Persia. Go check out that retro. And like, they're 40 plus projects in already, and it's still something that like is probably challenging for them. Like, it's not a simple formula for how you do this. It's not like you can just drop them in 1 or 2 end credits. Like, I think the fact that they are incorporating Kang in Quantumania, I'm not sure the full extent of like his role in that movie, but like he's gonna be in it a decent amount, I would imagine. And then just knowing that there's another version of him, or I don't know, is this the same version that he can just bounce around through time? I don't know. I really don't know the full extent of his powers. So I've been flooded with Kang, but I'm still curious enough that I want to know more. And it helps so much when you have a phenomenal actor in the shoes of him, because I love seeing him on screen. He's phenomenal. But for the Fantastic, I almost said Fantastic Four stick. For the Fantastic Four stuff, I think it's really fun that it's out of the 60s. I not like a super like time era like just junky or something. Like, some people just love the time era type movies. I think it's fun that you're gonna get like just different clothes, different cars and stuff like that. And if this is an origin, it's gonna be different than just having them in present day, because how many times can you do that? Clearly a lot if we're many projects in already, but like just like keep it fresh and something new. I think it helps that you're in a different time era to have their origin, and you can have these characters that seem out of place, like a fish out of water, like when they are in the present day. So I know we've seen that in the past, but for me, like, this is fun. We haven't seen like a pairing out of time like that in the MCU. If I remember correctly, I don't think we have, but I think this is lots of fun. And again, it separates it maybe from like the other live action Fantastic Four projects that we've got, whether that is the Fantastic Four stick or the I don't even know what era those earlier ones were. Probably like 2005, somewhere around that time period. So again, like I think that helps a lot of just really separating it, because if you had it in present day origin story, there's probably a lot of people that would just thought that, like, didn't they just have this movie? Like, why are the actors different? Because again, the lowest common denominator I'm looking out for here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's something you got to think about now if we're introducing characters to this scale. Is like, okay, if they are introduced present day, where were they when Thanos was doing crazy stuff? Were they
the classic question?
Did they not have their powers yet? Did they not have any connection to these people? Did Nick Fury not know they existed? Like, all these kinds of questions could come up. But then the other side of that too is like, if they create them in the 60s, or that's when they were born. Create them is a weird. They're probably not born in the 60s. I assume born in the 40s.
Test tube. That's another big change that they're doing for the Fantastic Four.
I'm getting lost in the weeds there, but yeah, if they were prominent in the 60s and then you bring them forward, then you also would hope that, and I guess this doesn't have to happen in Avengers. It could happen in Fantastic Four too. But you would want them to comment on things that have happened, like the whole event of the snap and stuff like that. You would think that would be very relevant information. Now, obviously, not every project needs to do that. We've had projects post snap that haven't commented on it, and that's okay. But it's something that I would be curious about. And I guess like the more MCU stuff we get, the more all these crazy events have happened, and it balloons out. And it's like, well, how do you? Like every project shouldn't comment on every other project, of course. That would be too much, but that's something I'm wondering. And I wonder if that's like a reason why they want to make them in the past, so it can be before all this stuff happened. That could be part of it.
Yeah. Like you brought a good point of like you can't just always have every single movie like them commenting on previous things. I don't even think I have much more to add to what you said. I feel like I had a thought. It just evaporated in front of me there. But
I'm thinking big picture today. I don't know why.
You are. No, I love it. Yeah. Unfortunately, I got like just small brain today, so I don't have these big. Ask me again next week. This question. We'll bring this topic back, unfortunately, for my own sake. But and like for Kang not being a villain, like is he gonna be like a big buddy of the Fantastic Four, or do you think it would be like a more manipulator type role? Like it seems like he's a good guy, but he's still like pushing them on a trajectory. Again, he's kind of Kevin Feige's foot soldier of putting these characters on a path to get them to the big Avengers films, because we're gonna get them in present day some point. But what do you think exactly is his role there?
I mean, I guess it could be a couple different things. Like it is, you would assume at this point, if we're going with the running theory that it's in the 60s, they need some plot point to bring them to present day, right? Present day MCU. That seems like a good way to do it. Kang opened up a portal and they went through it, or they followed him, on this like different plane of existence. It takes them forward, so that makes sense. But what if it's a Secret Wars thing too, where Kang is like his idea or his thought is that he's going to bring them in to like fight his opponents? Like he wants the Fantastic Four on his side, so he's maybe trying to lightly manipulate them. Because that could be a really fun way to play up. Because like I don't know what Kang's powers are, right? But like how do you make him really intriguing in a fight? How do you have someone like Thanos with all these gems and stuff like that was able to have these compelling fights against a bunch of characters? I don't know how you do that with Kang, but maybe a great way to do it is that Fantastic Four are fighting for him, whether it's like some mind manipulation thing, or he's, whether it's like some magic where he's like straight up like mind controlling them, or if he's just, whispered those sweet nothings into their ear to like make them think that, Tony Stark is the bad guy in this situation.
Right.
So that could be a thing that they're going for here, and that would actually be a very fun twist. So now that I've mentioned it, I'm like, damn, come on, MCU, hire me. I mean, I'm sure this has been done in a comic book before, but yeah, I don't know. That sounds like a compelling idea, and that actually would make sense, because otherwise, other than like an error, I don't know why Kang would want them in present day against him with everyone else, right? Like, why would he want more competition? It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're 100% right. And I really like your pitch there, because again, we knew the Fantastic Four were coming, but if they are done that route where it's completely different from what you thought, like they actually are a more villainous type role, that's just so fun. And again, you have like basically another Civil War type situation where you just got heroes fighting heroes, and
which wouldn't last long. Like I'm sure by the end of even Kang Dynasty, they would be switching back and they'd be on the good side, or even just one fight potentially. Could be all it takes for them to be like, this guy's clearly bad and we're clearly not. But
like I also feel like it's so fun having like your heroes that, even if you're not like a big Fantastic Four fan, I feel like a lot of people just know the gist. Like there's one guy made of rock, he's probably really strong. One guy stretches. Maybe Sue Storm is a little bit more ambiguous. She can go invisible, but also like force fields and stuff like that. And then you got the Human Torch. But like if they just portray them as this like very daunting threat that could like they are very powerful individuals. Like they could mess up a lot of Avengers members. So that'd be so fun, honestly. And like also just chilling, because it'd be freaky of just seeing someone like the Thing just mowing through. I'm not gonna say he's going on like a killing spree, killing innocents, but at least like putting maybe putting some resistance
you want
on
to
our
see
heroes.
the Thing fighting the Hulk for a scene.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Oh,
you want that
God,
iconic moment.
Yeah, and then would it be the She-Hulk or would it be the regular Hulk?
Oh,
or maybe a bit of both.
Yeah, maybe a 2-on-1. I'm down for that.
Yeah, the Thing. Unfortunately, the Thing is just like he's a tough guy, but like I just see as the Hulk as a more interesting type character. I feel like in my experience, again, I haven't really dove much into Fantastic Four in the comic books or anything like that, but unfortunately, so for that reason, the source that I'm pulling from is kind of the live action, and he was always like my least favorite character amongst the four. But hopefully they can do him some justice and make him a more layered character.
I think he'll be pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm
not just like a
I'm
rockhead.
really curious what the look is for him. And I'm obviously they're going to do CGI, but hopefully he looks good. That'd be a big. You got to get that right, obviously.
Yeah, no, 100%. I've had my grimes with She-Hulk's appearance. You know, as we've gone through the show of She-Hulk, I've totally warmed up to the CGI. It doesn't really bother me at all anymore. But I would want them to just hit the ground running on the Thing's look, because you know you can have the whatever mocap thing that they do for his face or whatnot, but like he's a rock man. You know, he's basically Korg, and
what if they took Korg and like turned his rock color
orange,
yellow, and then it's like, okay, well, is he yellow or is he orange? I guess he's orange. I thought
he was orange. I thought he was like a more orange. Copper or something like that.
Yeah, he's more orange. You're right.
Yeah.
But it's like it's not like the color of the fruit orange. It's like a more faded orange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just looking into our comments here. We got Derpy in the chat talking about Marvel animation. We talked about that a little while ago.
We had that question from Maddie too.
Yes, you did. Yes, good. My gosh, I'm on another level today. I almost said good memory. Good memory. Maddie Sags in the chat. I don't even have his Patreon comment in front of me here. Yes, I do. Do you like the idea of F4 being set in the past, or would you prefer present day? I kind of already spoiled my thoughts on that. I think this is my preferred method that they would go of. I'm not saying like, oh, years ago I said that they're going to be in the 60s and that's exactly what they did. I'm so smart. It's just for it to be something very separate from this era. I like it a lot because you can have an origin. That's kind of like Cap's origin, right? Like his origin was set in the 40s, so it's not like you have to figure out where it lines up. Like, oh, where was this character during the Thanos event? Kind of like what we were talking before. Like, it's just completely separated. That's all. True. It's a fun potential for Howard Stark to return. I know he'll be a little bit older in that frame, but I don't know, just more like Easter egg potential too, because we did have characters that went back in time, right? Like during the Endgame events. I don't remember specifically what year Tony went back, but I feel like it was sometime around maybe early 70s or 60s. So who knows? Like that could be lots of fun too if there's a little bit of a crossover. I'm not saying like they're gonna see Tony in the moment, but like maybe they go to a similar location that we saw in the Flash. I think that could be fun. But
yeah, I kind of get the vibe more that they're picking the 60s because it's away from everything else and they don't want to do any of that stuff. I like the setting of the 60s. I think that will be fun for the one-off movie here. I assume afterwards they'll be brought forward, and then the future movies would be in present day, of course. But for this one movie, I'm down for it. A funny thought with this is that Matt Shackman is the director of this now, as we know, who did WandaVision, which had a 60s era to it, right? Or did it go that far back? It must have, right? Because it was black and white, so it must have been 60s. Must have been a decade.
I feel like it was earlier than the 60s, but maybe a quick Google will answer that question.
Yeah, because I guess they don't necessarily do every single decade in that show. They kind of skipped a couple at some point, potentially. Yeah,
because so the first one, it looks like it was around the 50s, 1950s setting. But as you mentioned, like they do jump, so there must have been a 60s crossover, at least for one quick moment of the show.
At least in that pocket. So he's apparently the guy who, if Marvel wants to do something in the 60s, he's the guy to go to. So maybe in the second movie, when they're not in the 60s anymore, they get rid of him. They fire him. Like, we don't want you anymore. Your talents have been squeezed.
So cruel.
Like an orange. Yeah.
We're firing everyone. We're firing animation. We're firing these people.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Any further thoughts on the Fantastic Four stuff?
No, it's once again, when I always say this, but like when we're finally getting information like this, even if it's not confirmed, it's still it's like, okay, things are moving, like the only, like, oftentimes, even if these rumors aren't 100% correct, it's because things are in motion. So that obviously we got the director announcement recently, so you would expect that would be the kind of the ramp up as they're hopefully going to probably announce casting in the summer, maybe at Comic-Con, something like that. So it is exciting to get a little more information here.
Yep, absolutely. All right, we're going to jump to our next topic. Did I fool you, audio listeners? We're not going an ad break. We're going right on. We're carrying on. We're carrying on. Yeah, the momentum is going. This is a fun. I feel like I wasn't expecting to see a Tarantino just name drop in our news notes today, but this is actually wrapped around him possibly directing and by possible, the headline says he plans to shoot an 8-episode TV series. I'm going to make sure I pull up that article so I don't misspeak here on anything. Yeah, no, it's 8-episode series, something in 2023, which is right around the corner, really. Once the snow thaws, as a wise man once said about probably 40 minutes ago. He had a interview. What day is it today? Thursday. So yeah, this was just last night actually. On he was just promoting Cinema Speculation, his latest novel. And that's what he was talking about. I didn't even know this, but apparently he has some history of directing TV shows. At least he did 2 episodes of CSI Crime Scene Investigation.
Exciting for me. I want to go back and watch those.
Do you have any soft spot in your heart for those types of shows? There's certain people that just can't stand them at all, and some people that just digest them, whether it's like Rookie Blue, CSI, that was the one that I watched. There's like CSI Miami, those type of shows. My mom loves them. Like they were always on TV. It's just like the cable network, it would always be on.
Yeah, my parents watch that stuff too. It's not really ever been my thing, but like I would be super down to watch the 2 Tarantino episodes. Like that sounds like a fun podcast thing for us to do.
Why not? Yeah, 2 episodes, quick and easy. So yeah, that's cool that he's done that in the past. But yeah, no, that this would be like his basic, like he's directing every single episode. So that's a big shift there. Apparently too, in the article there, it said that he was speculating doing like a Marvel type project there. I don't know if you read that in the article.
No, I think it was that like someone asked him, if you had to do a Marvel thing, what would it be? So I don't
that's
think
better wording there.
Yeah,
that's
not
better
gonna
wording
happen,
there.
But of course, someone could take that, spin it into an article, headline, all that fun stuff.
I would have. I was about to. Right, if you weren't here, I was about to go. Did you guys hear about this? No. But like just what he pitched for his what he would have wanted to do is the Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, and it's just, man, that's so like that's so fitting for Tarantino, especially if you had Sam Jackson, obviously helming Nick Fury and everything.
I would not want that from him. I would pick 100 other things. I think before that, like he's been there, done that. Come on,
Inglourious Bastard. Yeah, it seems very same from what he's done. Oh, get crazy! Let's do it. Do the Black Cat show. A lot of just gore and violence.
A lot of feet. Yeah.
A lot of feet. Go check out House of the Dragon if you haven't watched that show. Yeah, and like again, like it's not too much to unpack here. It's kind of like hush hush and secret for like what exactly would be the project, but still, it's very shocking that I saw this because very famously Tarantino said that he's going to be doing 9 movies total, 10. And then is it 10? Okay, so there you go, because he's done. Oh, okay. He's done 9th. I thought he had 2 more down in the works. And
no, again, we talked about this on the retro, where it's like, if you consider Kill Bill to be 2 movies, which they are, then he's already done 10. So it's like it's all bullshit anyway.
It is all bullshit.
And this is like his thing of like, you know what? I'm gonna go direct 8 episodes of TV of my own show, and like this is not gonna contribute to his original thought of like, I don't want to be some old director who's lost his way and is making crap after all these years. It's like, you're just delay. Can you just drop that ruse?
It seems like a really artsy type thing. 10 is the ideal amount of projects
at this point, but
it really has.
I just think it's kind of goofy that if he's sticking. I mean, that was like an interview from years ago. I don't know if he still holds that exact same view that I just said.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he has more nuance to it than what I just uttered anyway. But yeah, I mean, I'm down for more Tarantino stuff, and this extends his career so I can get more Tarantino projects in my life. And of course, I'm all for it. There's nothing really here details wise to dig into, but I'm curious to see it because obviously his projects are known for just long dialogue sequences and things like that, and the movies are generally quite long, and you could take some of his movies, chop them up, and like that would be a TV show right there. So it all makes sense for me. If it's a cheat to what his like 10 movie rule is, which he's already broken, then I'm totally all for it.
100%, yeah. And even just like logistically, like assembling funding and everything to do like a whole new movie, like that is so much like just things that you have to be gathering on, especially like that is going to be your whole focus for whatever the extended length of the production of the movie and stuff like that, whatever it might be. I feel like a TV show, it's a little bit easier to get into. If he is like the main guy, obviously he was going to have his fingers all in there, deep in that pumpkin until it sees the light of day. But like I know recently, I think over the last year or maybe the year prior, like he had like a newborn, so obviously his like priorities was wrapped around that stuff. So I think this is just really cool, and I'm definitely going to be keep my eye on any updates around this. But 2023, man, that's close.
Do you expect this to be like a very classic Tarantino thing? Like, do you think we'll see a Sam Jackson or a Tim Roth or an Uma Thurman, like just those like classic actors that are in many of his projects, or do you think he wants to specifically do something that is quite different than like what his Hollywood pictures are, you could say?
That's a good question. I feel like if you asked me what I wanted, I feel like it would be so fun if it was just like almost like every episode is different, but like it's all like Tarantino's like universe of like characters. And I'm not saying like they have to portray like their same characters, but just like having the cast. But I think that could be so fun. I don't think that is the route. I think he is going to want to do something very different. I feel like just the type of creator he is. Again, I can't even imagine how his head works or the way that he thinks. He's such a wonderful individual for like creative wise. So it's tough for me to like pin that, but I feel like it would be something very different because obviously, I mean, he's directed 2 episodes of CSI, but still venturing out and doing an 8-episode TV series, that's obviously very different from everything else that he's done before. So I think it would be something fresh and new. And I don't know, I like that idea too, because like just give opportunity to like a lesser known actor or like an up and comer, right? Like maybe this will just be their big break and they are going to be like the next Uma Thurman or something like that, you know? I don't know if they can place Uma Thurman. She's one of a kind. Come on, the bride. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you can get her daughter. Oh, she's already appeared in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood anyway, so he's already worked with her.
She was in there. Yeah. Emma, I think that's her name. Oh no, Maya. There you go. Emma.
You said that so confidently too.
I was so confident. Yeah. She does like music. If you didn't know, she's like a singer. Maya Hawke.
Isn't every actress in their 20s?
That's a good point.
I feel like they all are.
I feel like I probably got a recording of a song out there somewhere. Probably getting some sense on my SoundCloud somewhere. No, I'm kidding. Anything else on this? Again, it's not much to unravel here. It's more of just like a thought bubble that we have. It is exciting. All right. Did you check out these trailers that we have today? We got 2 to talk about. Let's talk about. I'll give you the floor. Which one do you want to tackle first?
Yeah, I think maybe the quicker of the 2 would be Elemental. Is it called Elements? It's called Elemental. I'm correct.
Elemental. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't. I thought we've got a trailer for this already, but maybe we just got a screenshot.
So did I. Yeah. I like the flame. Like I think it was just a. Not like a screenshot, but just like the character and then maybe like the font, because it seemed so familiar. I thought going into it, I'm like, I thought this movie was either out or I saw like a, when you like go to a movie and it's like a quick like 10-second little snippet thing. It's not even like I guess you'd call it a teaser. It's more of like this is happening, sort of, but
I hear you.
I guess you would call it a teaser, but yeah.
Yeah, which, I mean, I guess this is the first trailer, and there's not too much to dig into here. There's not really any plot to it. It's more just like some world building stuff, which I'm into. But yeah, I like the concept of these different the 4 elements, and how these characters interact with each other. And it's like some water guy sneezes on earth guy, and then he like grows hair. Like that's a funny concept. So I think from that perspective, like I'm intrigued just the world building element of it. Like when obviously this character is just walking through what is the equivalent of a subway. It's like a hover boat thing. It's like something weird and different. Of course, it's the Pixar version. But like just a character walking through a city and just to see the different shops and the buildings and how they're like built in a way that accommodates all 4 of the elements. like that world building element is interesting to me, even if there is like not really any plot or even really there's obviously two characters who I'm probably gonna have some love story or something like that that are shown off here. None of that like there's nothing really no meat on the bone there. No flame, no log on the fire. I don't know how you want to do that, but I'm interested. I don't know if it's like, okay, I'm going to the theaters, I'm rushing to see this one, or if I'm waiting for Disney Plus kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's classic Pixar quality. They never disappoint in my mind.
No, definitely. Animation looks beautiful. I laughed so hard when I was watching the trailer. I just saw someone in the comment. I'll even shout out his name because why not? It made me laugh. Axel in the comments of YouTube. He said, the teaser reminds me of a lot of Zootopia. Zootopia. What would it look like if animals lived like humans? Elemental. What would it look like if elements lived like humans?
Sure. Yeah,
and it's very similar. And like it's a lot of people probably make those type of well, I don't know if a lot of people will, but Axel certainly did. And now that he made the observation, I can definitely see it. It does nothing to like kill my I didn't want to say hype is the right word, but just like anticipation for this because
I mean that's like a setting. That's like not the story, right?
No, again, it was something that made me chuckle. But I like Disney Pixar, like you said, they never really go wrong and although this quick teaser, it doesn't do anything to like make like, oh, I gotta find out what the like how these characters interact or whatnot, or like what's going on with the flame guy, like like I don't really have those thoughts, but it's just like this looks really cute. It's probably going to be totally tugging at your heartstrings like Disney Pixar usually does, and they do such a good job at making it obviously digestible for all ages and whatnot. But I feel like lately I've just grown so much more invested in like the kind of like the message that these types of movies bring, and they totally like just tug at the heartstrings. Whether you're watching something like Soul, which again like that, it's very powerful movie. You're just talking about like death, and like that's a very, I think just that's like an existential crisis type question that everybody kind of faces. But to have that in a kids movie and tackle it so brilliantly the way that they do, huge credit to them. So I'm. Like you said, I don't know if I'm going to be maybe going out to theaters for this. Maybe if Shay's off work and we're looking for a date night or so, whatnot, this could be fun. But no matter what, I'm going to be watching this, and I'm expecting a good time with it. And I actually still haven't seen Inside Out, which is funny because this movie kind of reminded me of that as well, just the animation style. It's Disney Pixar, so that's obviously they have their style. But yeah, all right. Moving on to our last topic of conversation today, which is... what's this movie even called? Inside, starring none other than the GOAT Willem Dafoe. I'll give you the floor. I'll give you the floor for this one. I want to hear your thoughts on this one.
I guess my thought here is it seems like fun. Willem Dafoe gets to do some crazy stuff, but I feel like this trailer is giving way too much away. Is where I'm at. I think.
That's a very fair
I think
observation.
There could be half as much in here, and I would still be intrigued without, I guess, seeing... Like, I'm sure there's some twist or something like that, but I feel like I've seen 90% of the movie already.
I agree. I think... I think if they had like basically a teaser length of what Elemental was for this, it would have just it would have like piqued my interest because it would have been similar to like the first kind of teaser / trailer that I saw for The Lighthouse, right? Again, this seems like almost like a psychological I guess thriller. I guess it kind of is
thriller.
Kind of
I would say the music, the vibes for sure.
And like maybe you could make the argument that like Lighthouse is more of a horror movie, but really it is like a psychological thriller, just descent into madness. And the promotion for that movie just again spiked because it's like, oh my gosh, you got Willem Dafoe in there, you got Robert Pattinson. Like, what is this movie gonna be? All black and white. This is insane. And I definitely had that thought for the first few. I was gonna say minutes, but I guess the trailer's only like 2.5 minutes. It feels a lot longer with the amount of stuff that they show in there. But I completely agree with your observation that they just showed a little bit too much. It's unfortunately just what happens with people that promote movies and people that make trailers. I think lately, I mean, I was gonna say lately, but we just recently watched Prince of Persia trailer, which came out obviously prior to probably in 2010, that time range, and that showed a lot. So maybe it's just a thing that trailers have always done, and I just haven't been I was gonna say privy, but almost cursed to the knowledge that it's showing too much there. So it is unfortunate there. I still think like like cinematography wise, they had a lot of cool shots and just like certain color palettes of like the room that he was in and like the different architecture and art that they were showcasing. It looks visually pleasing. That's something I've just grown to really appreciate more on is like proper shots that the cinematographer are choosing. And again, like it's moving art in my eyes. So if they can showcase that well, I give them credits and I'll shout it out whenever I can. But I'm mostly excited for just, I think, not so much like the mystery of what's going on in this, but just like the performance of Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is just aged like fine wine. I feel like he's just never been as popular as he is, and I've never appreciated him as much as I do now. So anytime I'm getting a new Willem Dafoe project, I get pretty excited for. And yeah, I don't know. It's checking that lighthouse box, I think, for me, where it's gonna be a wild performance from him.
Do you feel like Willem Dafoe is on the trajectory to become Nick Cage? Like just doing these progressively crazy movies where he's playing zany characters, doing wild stuff. Who has like, I'm sure Willem Dafoe's won an Oscar. You know, Nick Cage won an Oscar once upon a time.
Yeah,
now he's doing different stuff.
I'll give you the political answer and just say that nobody's like Nick Cage and nobody's like Willem Dafoe. They're one of a kind
For
there.
sure. Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like you have a fair observation there. I don't know. If we got a Willem Dafoe Ghost Rider, yeah, okay. He's the new Nick Cage, but I don't think that would ever happen.
I'd be I guess I still want more Green Goblin, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah, me too. Grey Goblin. Bring him back as Grey Goblin.
Yeah. Thinking about like what is the, you know, there's always, these movies always have a twist to them. Like it's just, I'm just trying to understand the logic of what's going on, where he is breaking into this place, this penthouse, and then he gets stuck there for what seems like weeks or months or years. So it's like, is there some rich guy who's like trying to like baiting someone to break into his house and then trap him there and then torture him by turning up the heat and things like this? Because like that doesn't make sense to me at all. Like that makes no logical sense. So I have to think that they're, you know, zooming out. It's something like the whole time he was in an insane asylum and he was just picturing that he was in a penthouse. I hope it's not that, because if that's what it is, then like I hope the twist is not something I can possibly conceive of right now. Like it is very smart and cool and novel. But yeah, just thinking about the logic of it, I don't really understand. That basic premise doesn't really seem to make sense to me at all, unless it's like some weird jigsaw thing as well, where it's some psycho who's doing it. But they're not really setting up that side of the story. It's more about he just gets trapped here and then he, you know, he's here for so long that he goes crazy. Yeah. So I don't know. That's something I was thinking about too afterwards.
No, that's completely fair. I'm completely in your camp that I'm hoping that it is a very fancy conclusion, and like, you know, when they show you the trick, I want to be like, holy crap, that was amazing. I feel like, I don't know, I'm getting some vibes from Spiderhead. I'm not sure if you ever watched that movie. That was the Miles Teller and Chris Hemsworth one on Netflix, and the trailer was really interesting, and it is like, hey, what's gonna happen here? By the end of it, it was just like, it was like a flat soda. It was just like, okay, I got sugar in me, but I don't feel the zing from the carbonation. It didn't leave me really satisfied, and that's obviously the fear of this. But I think no matter what happens, you're gonna get a brilliant performance from Willem Dafoe. And I don't even like, would you call it brilliant if he's just doing what he did in Lighthouse? I personally would, because I'm just a huge fan of him, and I think he can't. I don't think he can miss. But again, I feel like maybe that's just more my love for him as an individual, more so than the performances. But I think he's gonna be bringing it, no matter what. He's gonna.
No, I mean, obviously there's a reason that him and his agents, you know, like decided that you should do this role, like do this movie. There's something in it for you. So. Yeah, because I don't know. I don't know if there's a huge paycheck on this one necessarily. Maybe he's just doing it for that. But I don't know. There's got to be something there under the surface that's more captivating. But I don't think I see myself going out to the theater for this one unless I hear that it's like, just a hidden gem kind of thing. If not, but this is definitely one I'd want to check out when it hits streaming later down the road.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, potential Golden Geeks nominee. Who knows?
you
We'll
go.
see. I love the moment when he breaks like the vase and he like makes those like glasses out of like the bottle. Again, it's just there's gonna be a lot of moments I feel like I'll probably be able to meme about from this movie. Like
I think that is definitely true.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
All right, Dylan. Thank you so much for joining. This is the first ever weekly geek. We're breaking ground here. This was lots of fun unpacking these stories. Thank you to everyone.
It's oddly like
a
regular newscast with
it oddly is, but it's not. Same, but different. but same, but different. Big shout outs to everybody that jumped in the chat. Matty Sags giving his Patreon question. All that fun jazz. We're gonna get out of here. Marvel Alliance is jumping on right away. So if you want to stick around and watch some more Marvel unpacking, I think they're going to be talking about some fun stuff there. So tune into that. Tune in next time. Won't be boring. See you around.
Bye-bye.